podcast listeners. This is Dank here again for another episode of Not For Profit. And for today's podcast, we interviewed Lolo, a friend of mine who went through a big transformation as she took up pole dancing. And at first, she didn't know what it was, and the thought just kind of came to her. And then she realized it allowed her to have access to this deep feminine power inside of herself that she'd been repressing for a while. And it's actually been way more transformative than I had imagined. And this interview was a lot more profound than every interview is turning out that way, to be honest. So, without further ado, let's listen to Lolo and her journey in finding her true calling. So we don't always have to use our real names, right? That's a thing.
Okay.
So some people, they come from like institutions, famous institutions or whatever. So we talk about all kinds of things, drugs or whatever. So we allowed the option to create a pseudonym. But a lot of people don't give a shit and have no problem with whatever. So I don't know what you want to do. I'm not gonna use your last name.
How about Lolo?
Lolo?
Yeah, Lolo is the name.
Is that your stage name?
It is my stage name. Yes.
Wow. How'd you come up with the stage name? Is that a thing? Do people do that?
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. And I guess like Lolo is something I always kind of just called myself in my head. So when it was time to make like an Instagram for my poll and also like kind of start to think about stage names, it just came naturally.
So, okay, you started pole dancing in July?
Started June? March 28th, 2019. So okay. It's been about 8 months.
So you started in March, the pole dancing, right? And how did the thought occur to you? Because you say you kind of do things that occur to you and you just go for it. But how did that even happen?
The thought just came to me, and as I started doing pole, and kind of as probably some topics that we'll probably be going into, it makes sense now why the thought came to my mind. Okay. But at the time, I didn't know where the thought came from.
How did you even know it was a thing?
I have no idea, actually.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's funny because I talk to other girls, and a lot of people are like, oh, I've been following pole dancers for years, and I just never like found like the kind of courage to like just go for it myself. Other people tell me that their friends kind of like dragged them into it and they found that they stuck with it. It's really hard for me to explain because at the time it just came to my mind and I didn't even think about, like, I didn't even give it a second thought. I was like, pole dancing. And I looked up pole dancing studios in Brooklyn, and there was one 10 minutes from my work. And I was like, okay, I'll just go and try it.
Try it out. Mm-hmm. And you instantly knew you loved it?
As soon as I took my first class, I knew that I loved it. Yeah. It struck a chord.
So you were saying something that...
Oh, I'm hearing the music downstairs, but it's okay.
But, so you were talking about how, like, it was as if now you know why you chose it, right? Mm-hmm. That sounds sort of like destiny, a little bit. So how did you now realize that there was more to the choice than you had known when you made that choice?
Through pole, I've learned a lot about myself, and it's uncovered. It's almost like pole had woken up a sleeping Lolo, and now that she has awoken, she makes so much sense to me who she is, and that this is the person that I'm meant to be. And I think at the time, I would have never been able to see that, but the sleeping Lolo knew that this was for her.
Wow, that's so familiar to this. We know this woman, she's a drag king, and she created this persona as like a gag for a party. But when it happened, she knew this was something bigger than a gag, and now it's part of her persona. But what were you like before Lolo?
I think I was someone who was I was very unfocused. I was someone with I knew I had a lot of energy, and I didn't have quite an outlet for it. And I didn't even know at the time that I needed an outlet for the energy. I was just kind of acting without really thinking too much. And I was partying a lot. I was going out dancing a lot. I kept like switching jobs. I kept trying things, and I didn't realize that this energy wanted to be harnessed into something greater than just being there, just as a source of like just doing. I didn't realize it was like an energy that wanted to be harnessed to build into something.
Right.
And so at the time, it's interesting when pole came into my life as well, because pole came into a time in my life when my unfocused energy actually caused a little bit of a fracture in my life. Not even just a little bit, actually. It was a very big fracture. And I had like a pretty bad falling out with a really strong group of friends. And pole happened to come into my life just at that time. And it was... At the time, I needed something to throw myself into, because I just found myself alone and with a lot of anxious energy and bad thoughts to myself, and it was just like a really, really low point in my life. And so even the timing of it all is very crazy to me.
I remember you were talking about friends and that they want to before, when I talked to you about this in August, that you had friends that always wanted to hang out, and you were worried that if you took up pole, you wouldn't have time for them. I don't know if you remember this. You were concerned that taking pole seriously would stop you from hanging out with friends that you felt you had to keep meeting these friends all the time. And then I told you, fuck them, just do the pole, and that if they're your real friends, they'll be there. Do you even remember this?
I kind of do. At August, it was well past the friendship split.
Those friends. Okay.
So I wonder what friends I was talking about. But maybe I was, maybe at the time, I was trying to make new friends, and I was worried that...
Oh, if you didn't give time.
If I didn't give time to... Exactly. Yeah, actually. And you know what? It turned out not even to be a worry, because I just threw myself into pole, and I ended up making friends in the pole community.
In that community.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had a falling out with a bunch of friends? But I don't know any of those people, right? Like,
no. Yeah. Okay. It happened in March. It happened like right before I started my first pole class.
You know, I had a similar falling out with friends too in March. All those kids that you knew back in Bushwick. And I had a panic attack. I had a little mental break because of it. It's just funny. The timing is the same.
It is interesting, because I do believe that the universal energy is felt. Yeah. And it's interesting. Do you notice that like right now, so we're in January of 2020, have you been noticing like this energy of people wanting to like build or grow? I've been noticing that a lot amongst kind of different friend groups, regardless of age. And it's almost like that kind of energy back in March 2019, that was a little bit of a shattering. It's like leading to this energy of rebirth or rebuilding. And it's interesting, because when the universe presents you with that kind of energy that kind of shatters or breaks down what you know or who you think you are, you can go two ways. You can either rebuild yourself into something greater, or you can just like find yourself broken. Yeah. Wait,
were you always into astrology?
I was, yeah. Okay. I was always into astrology, but it's definitely cultivated over the last 2 years.
This like listening to the universe thing, that's pole kind of triggered that too, sort of, or...
Yes, a little bit. Because, at the time, I was just so devastated. Like, these friends were my foundation of who I was in New York. And
you met them all in New York?
I met them all when I moved back to New York 4 years ago. Okay. And they were, like, my main group of friends. They were, like, the only people I ever really hung out with. And so, at the time, I couldn't have seen it the way I do now. At the time, I just felt, like, shattered and devastated.
do you like? How did that happen?
That one is
It's different.
It's
Yeah,
a long,
it's a long story.
complicated story. But I do say I would think that part of it was that undirected energy. That with that undirected energy, I think I was doing things a bit chaotically.
Sure.
At the time.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that energy that like couldn't be contained would, you know, bounce around and hurt the things in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think that was part of it that led to it.
Wow. Okay, so you started at the pole and you realized you were maybe doing really well at it, right? And that was a surprise to you.
Yes. I have been trying to get like I did pick up working out in the last 2 years. I started doing like HIIT classes, which is high interval intensity training,
Right.
And so I knew I had this kind of like strong athletic propensity, but I had no idea just how much everything about pole I would love.
Right.
And so I was able to pick it up really quickly, and I struggled, but it was like a really fun kind of challenging physical struggle. It wasn't enough to make me feel like, oh, this is too hard for me or whatever. So I had that like nice foundation
Sure.
to jump into it.
Okay. And what have you learned? Because I remember you talking about your sexuality. Mm-hmm. That's something that let come out.
Like who was Lolo? Like who is Lolo? I guess.
Who is Lolo?
Who? That's you.
That's me. Who is Lolo? Well, I think maybe the greatest thing pole has done for me is allow me to find my freedom. I've felt for a long time I didn't really know what my life purpose was or what kind of career path was meant for me, and I just had all this energy that was unfocused. And through pole I've started to discover not only my freedom but perhaps my life path as one of freedom. And by that I mean helping others find their freedom as well. And so I'm actually now I'm 9 months into pole, and I started studying for my group fitness instructor certification. And once I complete that, I want to take my pole certification so that I can eventually become a pole instructor.
Right.
Pole has done so much for me that I want to become an instructor and give that back to other people. And so when I say finding my freedom, it's allowed me to be comfortable expressing myself.
Yeah.
Which is why I feel like the sleeping Lolo has awoken, because she's been allowed to express herself in a safe space. And that includes like my sexuality. It includes my physical strength. It includes my confidence, my ability to talk with other people in the class, women and men. And yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, you do seem quite different than when I met you in August, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, your energy is different. It's good. It's a good difference. It's more confident and assured. Because before, you weren't even sure how far you were going to go with pole.
Really?
Yeah, you were not sure at all.
That's so interesting. Wow.
I remember vividly. It's like it was kind of new. You're realizing you're good at it, and you're feeling something. You were it felt like you were discovering it still. You're still in the mode of and trying to understand how important it is to you.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you didn't know exactly yet.
I remember that actually.
Yeah.
I remember feeling like there was something very meaningful in my pole journey aside from just a hobby. I felt there was something more meaningful. And I remember when I was talking to you in August, I felt afraid of pursuing that fully.
Right.
Because what would that mean? It's such a...
You're afraid of what your family would think.
Yeah. Like, how would that provide financial stability? Like, how would I even make something like that work for me?
Right.
Yeah.
And now, you've solved that, or you've figured that out, or it's not a concern like it was.
Yeah. I haven't figured it out yet.
Right.
But I just feel so sure that this is something I should be doing, that whatever risks I was afraid of back in August,
Right.
I'm not afraid to take on those risks anymore, because I feel so sure that this is something I want to pursue that there's only one way to find out, and that's to try it.
Yeah. Wow. And it's made you more spiritual too? Or
Just pole itself hasn't made me more spiritual, but the way it's entered my life and what it's doing for my life just makes me feel like things are destined in a way. So it's not pole itself, but the way this past year has come about for me, and pole being the trigger for it all. Yeah.
wow. So you want to get what so this certification, the first one, it's about teaching groups or something, or
Yeah, because I don't have any kind of like exercise science background
Yeah.
or anything like that, I think studying for the group fitness instruction certification will just lay a good foundation
Yeah.
for learning about movement and the body, and from there I can get the kind of specialty certification for pole.
where do you do that?
It's a mix of online classes and like workshops and in-person classes as well. So I'm still kind of learning about what that path will take. Just starting an online course for myself, but eventually over the next few months I want to talk to instructors and kind of get more insight on.
You had
How I should
ideas
go
of
about.
moving to California.
Yes,
Is that still an idea?
it's happening.
Oh, you are moving to California.
I'm moving in July to LA.
To LA. Oh, it's happening. Wow.
Yeah, those are one of the risks I was worried about. But
Yeah.
I feel like if I want to really pursue this, LA has a huge pole scene and so many opportunities for performances.
Yeah.
And if I have a 9 to 5 right now, I want to go to LA and not even get a 9 to 5, just find a part-time so I could really dedicate my time to pole. In LA, I'll be away from all the distractions that I have here in New York. Just being from here, I have so much friends and family, and New York is so fast-paced. There's always something to do, a party to go to, a thing to see. I want to just put myself in a city where I won't be distracted.
LA is less distracting.
That's true.
Yeah, it's more chill. Like things are farther away. It's harder to get to things. It's not like, oh, this thing is going on. Let me just like hop on a train and be there in 20 minutes. You know, I
Yeah.
gotta like plan things out more carefully. So,
And you're meeting people from there online at all?
so I'm moving with my roommate who also has lived in New York her whole life.
The same roommate we met a long time ago?
No, I moved in with her in July, this
Okay.
past July.
Okay.
And we are like a perfect
Oh,
roommate, like
she's a new
partner.
kind of a new person?
She is someone I met 2 years ago
Okay.
in my life, but has definitely come to play an extremely big role in my life over the last year.
Yeah.
And just in terms of showing me what kind of support I need from a friend. She's really opened my eyes to like kind of what the support I had in the past and like what is the support that I need for who I am.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that. That's true. Supportive friends. So important. I'm only realizing that's like the difference of friends now than friends then.
And it's like a friend who understands who you are and isn't offended by it in a way. You know, like I don't want to say what happened with my friend group back in March. I don't want to say it's because of one person or another. It's just I look back now and I see that I was always trying to fit myself into this box of who I thought I should be with these people. And now that I've kind of broken free out of that box and like really let myself kind of bloom, I see now the friends I have now who fully understand who I am and how my energies are and like know how to work with me and support me in that way has really helped me.
I had a group of friends in Williamsburg that I kind of, lost touch with, and a group of friends in Bushwick. And I guess a lot of it was at the time they were just friends, and I was just one of the group or whatever, but something horrible would happen, and everyone would do nothing about it, and it would devastate me, break my heart. And then I left, but then in hindsight I realized like they didn't do anything, like they were kind of just coasting on entropy, and and now I'm pretty much close to people that are really productive or have some sort of goal or purpose or something. But then I didn't know. Yeah, they were living unconsciously, just going out, drinking, being cool, and I was one of them, you know. But then they had a cruelty that I couldn't really cope with, and that
They have empathy problem.
no, I mean they know it's not empathy, it's more integrity issue or like I realize like those are not people I want to know for the rest of my life. People that I can't count on to do the right thing when the time is right. When you know, I never thought of it as supportive, because most people. I've been kind of self-supportive my whole life. So I never thought of it that way. But now that I'm thinking about it, it does seem the friends now are way more supportive of things, and they're all women too. I'm friends with all women now.
It's also like finding friends who have the same life values or alignment as you.
Sure.
You know, this friend group that I had a falling out with, they were all good people. But when I see it now, I would say maybe like their life value was about stability, and mine is about freedom. And sometimes the two clash, and that clash came out a lot within the group, which is why I think the falling out eventually happened. Because in order to really get myself onto the path of freedom, you kind of have to lose stability at first, and that's scary. That's a scary thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm curious about because like the sexuality part. So like I'm reading this book and I'm learning more about body and how like women have this energy that comes from our own sexuality that we usually like we either repress or like are just focused on other people's energies too much that we become like super we just end up neglecting that a lot. And I don't know, is that something that you found through Paul or?
Totally. So this is a very interesting topic, and yes, I would love to move on to that. I would love to approach that topic because there's no denying that pole is very tied to sexuality in a lot of themes. You know, it kind of like has that history of being tied to the stripper world, which we still embrace today. Like, we don't want to try to disconnect the two. I think it's important to acknowledge where pole comes from, and you know that it's a really underrepresented group of strippers. And so as pole is becoming more mainstream and popular, it's important to like bring everyone up together. And of course, you know, there's a lot of moves that are like tied to like kind of like these sensual moves. And honestly, it's just fun. It's just fun to try to be sexy in front of the mirror on a pole. And what I found with females learning to embrace their own sexuality is, yes, I have noticed in myself and in the peers that I have been kind of practicing and training together with, that as women learn to embrace their sexuality, they are finding a new power within themselves, 100%. And it's interesting. I've never been asked to really like sit and think about it. But I think part of it is, and for myself, at least, I always thought I was someone who was comfortable with my body, but pole has showed me that I really was not. I didn't really know how to be truly comfortable with my body. So, you know, there's like a move in pole where you can, like graze your hand up against your side, right? And the instructor's like, like, do it sensually, like touch yourself. And when an instructor says touch yourself, you look around the class and everyone's kind of like awkwardly bringing their hand up. Like no one really knows how to touch themselves. And the instructor just grabs her boob and she places her hand on her boob and she says, if it feels uncomfortable, hold it there. Like, it's your body. This is your body. Why are you uncomfortable holding it and touching it? And that just sparked such a...
Just blew your mind.
It blew my mind, yeah.
That's blowing my mind right now. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's hard for women at first to confront sexuality because with that comes unwanted gaze or unwanted desire. And it's so, like, how do you reclaim your sexuality and feel comfortable expressing it without having that attached to it? And I think there is someone in me. I'm a Scorpio rising, okay? There is something within Lolo that is highly sexual that wants to come out and be expressed. But I think I wasn't allowing it to be expressed because of that same fear. Like, I don't want to look inappropriate at work. I don't want unwanted catcalls. And so in pole, what I've been finding is that you're in a safe space.
Okay.
This is a safe space. So if there is even like an hour in your day where you can comfortably express your sexuality, it's in this safe space. And what I've been noticing is that kind of constant practice of expressing it in that 1 hour or maybe those like 2-3 hours of the week exude into other parts of your life. I think what's been so transformative about for me from pole is that the habits that you practice in one area of your life subconsciously feed into the habits that you practice in other areas of your life. So for example, like let's say you're somebody who is always bad talking people. You're always talking negatively about someone or something. Your mind is already in the habit of talking that way. So there's a high chance that when you're alone with yourself, your mind thinks that way about you. So that's why I try not to say anything negative about anyone or anything because I just don't want my brain to be in the habit of thinking that way because then I'll start talking about myself that way. And so with pole, what I've found as transformative is the habit of showing up. Just the fact that you are able to make time in your busy schedule to go to this class and show up, that practice of like showing up for what you want, the habit of learning how to balance energies. I used to be late all the time to appointments. I would go see my family after a night of drinking and partying, and I would just be so exhausted. I wouldn't be able to give my family my 100%. I would show up to friends the same way. My energy was so scattered. I was never giving anyone my full time. And that felt bad. I felt flaky and I felt like a terrible person. And with pole, if you don't show up with the proper amount of energy, your class is wasted. You just feel tired and you can't do it. So it's like, why pay the money to go? So I've had to learn how to properly schedule my energy and balance my time and energy. And ever since I started doing that habit, I've been showing up for appointments with that same kind of mindset. And my close friends have said they noticed a visible difference. They've been like, you've been showing up like with energy on time, like yeah. So it's interesting that habit kind of entering other areas of my life. And then the biggest thing is the confidence. You have a couple hours a week in front of the mirror. Just this is your safe space. This is your time to just practice being confident. You know, the fake it till you make it, like the pose, you know how they say if you like sit up with your shoulders back and your chest out, that kind of pose can automatically make your body feel a little bit more confident. Just practicing confidence in this space has allowed me to practice confidence in other areas of my life. Like I've been showing up to work just way more vocal and not afraid to take up space. I've been showing up in my relationships, in the dating scene in that way, just like not afraid to take up space. So in that way, pole is so transformative because it's just giving you the time to practice these things that you want for yourself.
That's incredible.
Wow. Makes me want to go to try pole.
Yes. I've been telling so many women especially to try to take pole classes. I really think it can be so valuable and empowering to so many people, and not just women. And I've actually gotten 3 friends to go now, and they love it, and they're continuing to go. Mm-hmm.
Wow, I guess
Sounds
it's like
magical.
it's a way to tap into this sacred feminine, which is more powerful than anyone knows, I guess. That's been suppressed by culture and society for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Eckhart totally talks about that too, yeah, how women's divine feminine has been suppressed for hundreds of years because men are scared of it.
I believe it. Like, when I first started pole, I didn't know how to shake my booty. I was like kind of afraid of wearing revealing clothes, and I didn't really know how to like touch myself. Now, I mean, look at me, I'm in a crop top right now. Like, I have no problem showing off this body that I'm so proud of, and it's for myself. Like, it's not for anyone else. And now the way I dress, the way I want to like shake my booty in public, the way I want to like, kind of embrace my sexuality, I do it for me because it just feels so true to who I am. I'm no longer afraid that it would offend somebody or that it's inappropriate. I hate that. I hate that so much of female sexuality is considered inappropriate in society, and that it makes women like repress it and hide it.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna be a great teacher. You can't. I mean,
Thank you.
You're so passionate, and
Yeah.
it's coming from
great.
such a solid found place that it's
And you're putting
pretty profound.
The way you talk about it is also very articulate.
Thank you. Thank you. It gives me thank you. It gives me like encouragement that maybe this path of teaching is what I'm meant for.
I mean, I believe it. Even just from hearing you talk about it, it's fascinating. I mean, you will bring a lot more women come into their own divine feminine energy.
Yeah, and but also like
Which
you've
will change
always
the world in the end.
you've also always been like a kind person, like a kind-hearted person. So it's like this is the exact kind of energy, like that sort of. It's passionate, it's persuasive, but it's coming from kindness too, which, other people can be passionate and persuasive, but they just want money or something, like they don't understand, what it is to share.
And part of that is empowerment, is having been able to find my empowerment. Do you know what I think a lot about? In August, we had talked about how there was like a research study, and like women and men had to grade
The women's paper, the plays?
Yes.
Yeah, I told you about the play study, yeah. Playwrights, and they put male, female names, and women had a lower score, but it was only women that were giving out the low scores. And the surprise was men scored evenly, fairly, yeah. And it was actually only women, and that was not the purpose of the study. That was like the surprise result, yeah.
of how harshly women judge other women.
Yeah.
So when I first started taking pole classes, I'm throwing myself into an environment of surrounded by women all the time. I'm not used to this. And when I first entered class, I'm kind of like insecure and shy and not sure of myself. And I enter class and I see like another woman and I'm like, oh, I'm prettier than her. Or like I look at another woman and I'm like, oh, I'm definitely like more fit than her. And being confronted by these thoughts that I don't like having was very exhausting. And my friend once told me that the first kind of thought that you have is the thought that society embedded in you. And then your second thought is your true conscious thought. And so learning to overcome that initial thought. So I knew that this is not how I wanted to be feeling and thinking about other women. And to be constantly like battling that was really exhausting at first. And now that I've come farther along on my journey and I'm like starting to really find empowerment, one thing that I want to like keep preaching to everyone is empowered women empower other women. If you are an empowered woman, you don't feel the need to put down other women or judge them or say harsh things about them. You just want to support them and raise them up. And so I find that with my peers too, the peers that I pole with, they are so supportive and encouraging. It really is a non-judgmental environment. So I say to any like newcomers, don't be afraid. Like, don't compare yourself to the other people in class. Everyone is there to just support you and raise you up. Like, the people who keep doing it and really find their own empowerment and their own power, they're not judging you. They're not thinking harshly of you. So just come and feel comfortable. It's a safe space.
That friend you talked about, is that your roommate?
Yeah, it's my current roommate.
And you were born Buddhist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Raised Buddhist?
Yep, my family is Buddhist.
But you didn't hear that kind of stuff in Buddhism?
There is a lot about like kind of the ego and how you have to learn to break down the ego to really find enlightenment. Like the ego holds you back, and I guess the ego could sort of be that like maybe the monkey mind or that thinking mind that prevents you from kind of seeing the bigger universal picture.
Wow. So this friend is moving to LA too, right? Mm-hmm. What is it a woman? Mm-hmm. What is she gonna do? Like,
she's a freelance illustrator, so she LA has so many animation options. She's also a bona fide hustler. I'm not worried about her. She'll find work wherever she is. She's a solid illustrator.
No, it's interesting that you're both going at the same time. You know.
It's rare.
Yeah.
It's awesome that you're both going together.
And it's so interesting the way we met. I met her because 2 years ago my cat had a litter, and we needed to find owners. And so a friend of a friend referred her to adopt one of the kittens, and she did. And that's how I first met her. And over the years, I like thought she was chill. We would like party every now and then. And just around the same time I was looking for a new roommate, her old roommate of like 6 years was moving out, and I was looking for a new roommate because like the whole friend fallout happened. So I was like, I was not expecting to be in a place to look for a new home.
Yeah.
And the timing worked out like that too for the two of us. And now that we're living together, guess what? The two cat brothers are reunited because I have the other boy cat from the litter.
Wow.
So the two boy cats in the litter are now living together, the brothers. So we're cat moms.
I've never met this person, right?
No, you haven't met her yet.
Wow. And she was she like sort of more enlightened or like awakened or something to be telling you stuff like that, like about the first thoughts and second thoughts, or like where did that come from? Like why would?
It's interesting. She's very wise and she has a lot of good advice. We are like really good complements to each other, like very good yin and yang. And she has a lot of she's very detail oriented, and she thinks through things very practically and like kind of thinking about the risks. So she comes from this like grounded, practical like place. And I think I bring that sort of like energy to like, let's just do it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I kind of get her like action oriented, and she gets me like grounded. Yeah, it's that force of pushing and like kind of lifting and grounding the two of us. So we have a lot of these like kind of deep conversations, and I think we're both people who are constantly working on ourselves, so we have that connection. And so in these kind of conversations, things like what she said comes out. Yeah.
I see. That is amazing.
With the statement about how your first thought is usually the one that society taught.
No, this whole journey.
Oh, the whole journey.
Because it involves other people and
timings.
But it's so much bigger than... I guess pole is bigger than I thought it was. In itself. It's a much bigger tool for channeling something that has been lost.
And the culture that it brings is also... I had no idea it was... Like, the culture of pole dancing is like very specific like that.
And I would have never known this either. So that's when I say, when I first got the idea to pole in my mind, I had no reason, no conscious reason of of why it came to my mind. And it only makes sense now that it is so true to who I am as a person that the sleeping Lolo awoke. But that person back in March didn't know how the idea came to her head or what it meant at the time.
It's probably, I don't know. I'm kind of nuts, so I think about multiple universes and time shifts and all this stuff, but I would imagine that's like a version of you that found it sooner, telling you that you gotta do this. Like, this is what you, it's trying to shove you in that direction.
That's also moving.
Maybe.
Yeah,
that I believe that.
And it's like it was already found in another version of this earth, and that energy is like pulsing out to you, and it just pops in there, and then it triggers because it's too much. It's too remarkable to be nothing. I think, I don't know.
It just like suddenly randomly came up.
The time it took for me to have the idea, look up a pole studio, sign up and go, was within a week.
Yeah.
I talked to other girls being like, oh, how did you get into pole? They say they've been following pole dancers on Instagram for months, sometimes years, before finally deciding to take a pole class. One instructor who is incredible and like an OG in the community, she said that her friend thought she would like it and told her she should go, but she didn't listen and didn't go for almost 6 months until she finally took a class with her friend, and then she is the queen she is today. But I hear stories like that, and I'm like, I don't know what came over me. I just got the idea and I signed up and went.
I had this idea that there's an infinite multiverse, right? And that's like a thing a lot of physicists talk about, but that there are versions of you that are stronger than you and also weaker than you, right? And if you just realize they exist, you can start to communicate / resonate with these other forms of you, like even a female version of me, half sister, half brother versions of me that don't have both same parents, and then I can actually see them, see how they're living, and then I do a mantra in motion where I'm giving energy, resonating it everywhere, and then giving myself, right? But in that time when I give to all versions of me, weaker versions of me, or versions that are successful but they're struggling with something else that I'm not struggling with. I try to give them my wisdom, knowledge, under any positive things I can give them, and then earth. And then when I give to myself, I can see them all giving to me. But the key is like you have to give to get, because why would anyone be giving you if you're not giving? But then it creates an infinite feedback loop as everyone's doing these three emotions, and you can draw this infinite energy source. But the key is it's something you give to.
That's so interesting, because that idea for pole came to me when I was at one of the lowest points in my 20s.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there was a stronger Lolo out there who saw weak, lonely, sad Lolo and sent her
I believe
the
it.
pulse.
And you have to do the same thing. You're gonna have to send out that pulse. The more empowered you get, the more you realize. Because I feel like this is unlocking even more than we've even come to realize so far. I mean, like when you teach, you're gonna learn even more, and you're probably gonna give a TED Talk.
Is there a TED Talk out there about pole yet? That would be cool. The first pole TED Talk.
Oh man, you would kill it actually. Pole TED Talk.
48.
And the other thing, it's so interesting because I've also recently been getting into numerology.
Okay.
Have you ever looked up your life path number?
No.
Okay, we'll have to do that at some point. But everybody has a life path number, and my life path number is 5.
Okay.
And 5 is the path of freedom. And it's interesting because 5 is also a number that's very tied to the human body.
Right.
The human body has 5 points, 5 fingers, 5 toes. 5 is a number that's so closely related to the human body. And I feel like this path of fitness is like reconnecting people to their body. You know, when you're deeply connected to your body, it opens up new like kind of enlightenment, perspective, spiritual things for you. I started to realize that, you know, when we were first taking classes, they'd be like, oh, I mean, like, move your hip flexor or, like, move your pelvis this way. And I realized I didn't even know where it was. I was so disconnected to my body.
Yeah.
Just our modern day is, like, so technology focused and so sedentary. It's crazy how disconnected we are, actually, to our physical body.
Oh, yeah, they say if you're stuck on writing or you're doing any project, like, really mentally heavy, just, like, go outside and walk for 20 minutes, and just the motion of walking will engage different parts of your brain, which will activate different parts of thinking and, you know, re-energize creativity.
Oh yeah, like movement is so important in re-energizing creativity, and I say movement rather than exercise because exercise in some ways is a repeated set of patterned movements. But if you think about animals in the wild, or if you look at young babies, their movements aren't like repetitive. You know, like whether you're hunting or playing, it's like a much wider range of movement. And when you look at like a baby play, it's like crawling around and trying all these things. Like how much of that kind of unstructured, freeing movement do we do in our daily lives? Very little of it. You know, if you're someone who stays fit and exercises, there's still a chance you're not doing much of like that kind of freeing movement. And again, that just connection to mind and body, allowing yourself these moments of like dance or whatnot, or like that kind of flowing, like Tai Chi like motion. That kind of freeing movement can really do a lot to boost creativity.
Bruce Lee talks about that in martial arts. He says it's to express oneself honestly, completely, like totally, without, you know, and that's like the purpose of martial arts, to express oneself honestly. Now that, my friend, is a hard thing to do, something like that. That we don't do that in our day-to-day lives, and that's why it's so important. And he's a hardcore Buddhist, actually. I don't know if you know about Bruce Lee, but
I don't, but that makes me really interested to look in more, because what you just said to describe martial arts is how I would describe pole.
Yeah.
So that the sole point is to express oneself truly, honestly, and freely.
It's like exactly what he says about that. That's why when he did martial arts too, he didn't stick to any form. He studied all the forms and took what he liked and discarded what he didn't like to create his own thing, to express himself as honestly as possible. That's why he created Jeet Kune Do, which is a precursor to mixed martial arts. It's influenced development. He died when he was 32, right? I'm way past his age. I'm older than... It's like when you pass the lives of your heroes or whatever, it's really strange. Or your mom, when she had you. Do you know what age your mom had you?
I think she might have been around this age, maybe 30. I think she had my sister around 26, so she must have had me like 29, 30 about this time.
I like to, when I hit the age of my parents, when I hit those ages, I was like, I saw them differently. I saw my parents differently. I was like, oh my God, you had me at this age? Damn. Poor kids. Like, oh, poor parents. I started to like feel much more compassion for them once I passed their age. Because then I see them as kids. Actually, I don't see them as authority or adults anymore.
They were just young people trying to figure it out too. Yeah,
they're just confused as everyone, and they're still as confused. And I found it very surprising that the older you get, the less it seems, the less stable I've noticed older people get, the less stable they are, the more scared they become. Like, when I was young, I always thought the older you get, the wiser, the more sure you are, the more confident. But I'm learning it's not the case at all. Like, people really harden their worldview, limit and create these super limiting values and ideas of themselves. And it actually gets worse with age if you don't break out of it. And most people don't. which is like profoundly sad and surprising to me, actually. Genuinely surprised. Like,
It's the same with your body's flexibility. If you never like slowly start to stretch those muscles, those areas, like let's say your hips, for example, will just get harder and harder. And the older you get and you still don't stretch, it's just going to stay in that hardened state.
yeah, I mean,
You gotta,
I
like,
think one of
stretch your
our
mind and stretch
life
your-
goals is walking as old people, like walking limber, like being limber till you die. I want to die limber. I mean, if it's like the last week and I gotta be in bed, okay, fine. But I don't want to be like not like that for years, you know?
Yeah.
I want to be limber and active and engaged and be able to pick up great grandchildren. Be like, ha ha.
Totally.
And be like, my grandparents can do this. Because they're not that limber anymore. But all right, so we went way over time, but that's okay. It was incredible.
It was fascinating.
Man, oh, this is great. It's very exciting because I didn't know what was gonna come of this. And your journey is fascinating, and you speak about it so well.
Do you guys have any questions on anything that covered? I mean, I'm just beginning my journey as an instructor. This is the very first step, is just taking the online course. So, you know, I obviously still have lots to learn about everything we discussed, and I have a lot I want to look into on the mind-body connection, because I just know, like, I was only able to touch on it. I really don't know it that deeply. So, yeah,
I mean,
definitely
you're
look
not just
forward
learning
to-
pole though. You're learning like so much more. That's
Yeah.
that's what took me by surprise
Mm.
in this interview, is that you're learning a deeper sense of yourself and culture and society
And definitely that
deeper
sacred
truth.
femininity
Yeah.
that I think as a culture we're all starting to realize exists, and we've just become aware that it's there.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to learn, like, how do we unlock that? How do we tap into that? And yeah.
And you might have found one of the keys.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I hope. Damn, this is gonna be great. And we're gonna do like show notes, right? So,
Mhm.
like, anytime if you like become the teacher or whatever, you know, we can links to your shit and all that stuff.
Sure.
You
I
know
have
what
an Instagram, Lolo Dances, that I've been documenting my pole journey
Oh.
on. So
Oh, yeah,
I
okay,
can definitely
Lolo
share that with
Dances,
you.
yeah.
Mhm.
And, you know, we'd love to have you on again and again to continue about your journey.
Yeah.
And especially July, you're gone, right?
I'll be leaving end of July or early August.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we should just hang anyway.
Mm-hmm. For
But-
sure. For sure.
Yeah, definitely want to hear more about this ongoing discovery.
Maybe are we where are
Still
we
recording.
Are we still, I mean, you can
Right? Yeah.
it's fine if you record this part, but it probably not put it in this first podcast.
No, I think
but,
we were cutting before.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you can stop. What an interview. I was pretty dumbstruck. Lolo's coming back though. I think she's gonna come back in April because something big is happening to her. She's making some major changes in her life that she didn't discuss on this episode, but she'll talk about it further next time she comes around. And we'll also probably talk to her before she leaves. We might talk to her sooner. I don't know. I mean, we're gonna hang out and stuff, but I learned so much from this episode, and I'm hoping you guys might too. In the show notes, we'll put down her Instagram handle and where she takes her classes in Greenpoint. I think it's in Greenpoint. But, you know, if you want to give it a try, check it out. I'm sure even dudes can check it out and unleash the divine feminine within them. Who knows, right? But it's definitely just something about this year, something about this unleashing of this power that I think would change the world, save the world, to be honest. So I'm all for it. I'm sure you are too. And until next time, be easy on yourselves, forgive yourselves, and know that you're one with everything. God bless. Take care.